And of course, that signals our bi-weekly chit-chat with Dr. Jaimie Ronchetto from Cinema Veterinary Center, our veterinarian now. And speaking of hound dogs, you took care of all of mine recently.
Yeah.
Daisy has nice clean teeth and fresh breath now, back to her old self. And this is kind of interesting that we don't always think about that. You pulled at least 4 teeth from her, right? I know there's a couple back ones and a couple there, but she still seems to be chewing just fine. But the difference, I think, not only in her breath, but I think also in her energy level and stuff seems to be a little different.
That's good. We find that a lot, actually. When we make the call to owners saying, okay, we've done the x-rays and this many teeth need to come out, there's always a little bit of a shock and worry that they're not going to be able to eat and, how many teeth do they have left. And even if they don't really have very many teeth left, if it's necessary to pull a lot of teeth, they do really well. And after everything's healed, they can typically go back to whatever their normal diet is. And we do find that a lot also, that once they're healed, they feel a lot better, and you didn't even really realize that, they would act differently.
If you had funky teeth or went for most of your life without really having any type of decleaning, we don't know what happened, what was happening with her prior to us adopting her 3 years ago. And also, I want to talk a little bit about yeast infections, because that's what we know. Otis, our other beagle, has had problems off and on with his ears. We tried the drops and topical stuff, and it always seemed to come back. But he was diagnosed with a yeast infection, not only in his ears, but it had spread to his feet. And we didn't know, my wife and I had no clue that that's how that worked. So is that something that, can a yeast infection take over their whole body?
It certainly can. So yeast likes to grow on skin that is very moist, so that's moist in dark places. So that's why they like the ears a lot. But certainly in between the toes, the feet area, especially if they have a tendency to chew at their feet.
That's what he was doing.
Yes. So yeast is also very itchy. So then that makes them want to chew more. So it kind of sets up this vicious cycle of keeping everything moist where they can grow more. It itches more and then they want to chew more. But certainly dogs can, once they're in these certain areas and that that yeast infection is set up, it can certainly spread to other places.
Well, he seems to be mellowing out a little bit, so at least I know that Dr. Will Barker, your other veterinarian in your office, had packed his ears, which maybe makes
the OTA pack.
Yeah. So probably easier for her to do that than us. So I want to talk a little bit of shifting gears, because we're about to move I say it's the country. It's still 5 minutes from Old Town New Hall, but it's Placerita Canyon, and we're going to be on like an acre lot, dirt road. There is the area there across from us. There's nothing but wildlife or wild stuff. There's no other development in that area. I mean, we have next door neighbors. Everything is kind of like spread apart. What is it that now, because we'll be letting the dogs out, although it's fenced in, what do we need to consider now that we're kind of more in the country than in the city?
It's definitely different than, where you are currently. So I would just really kind of watch the area. Foxtails out there probably are a lot worse, and they can be nasty and get into ears and up noses and in skin. So trying to be aware of where you let them kind of wander so they don't get into those types of bushes, because that can be nasty. Certainly more risk of running into wildlife, and certainly rattlesnakes back there. So considering getting the rattlesnake vaccine, just to give you a little extra protection, would be good.
But making sure the flea and tick stuff is up to date probably as well, especially ticks.
For sure.
And I want to touch on this. It's been a while since we've talked about the rattlesnake vaccine, because it's not something that if they get bitten, we got the vaccine, they're good. But it does, if I'm not mistaken, at least kind of slow the process down enough so that we would be able to get them to an emergency vet or to your office to have them treated.
Correct. That's exactly what it does. Mm-hmm.
But if they are bitten by a rattlesnake or some other poisonous thing, how much time will we usually have to get them in, and what should we consider on the way to taking them to your office or an emergency clinic?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you find out that that's what's occurred, you want to get them in straight away. You don't want to have any time to waste. And certainly it still depends on many factors: the size of the snake, where they got bit, and potentially, if it's a full bite or what we call a dry bite, where they actually don't release, the venom. And it's just a dry bite where they can still puff up and have some reaction, but not as bad as if they actually had the venom in it. So because of so many factors, I would just say as soon as you find out that that's what's happened, you want to get them to the ER right away.
And don't try that old Saturday afternoon Western trick where you try and suck the venom out, because that doesn't work. That was only on Gunsmoke, not in real life, or cutting away or doing anything. Just
right. Don't do anything yourself. Just get your pet in as soon as you possibly can.
And of course, there are emergency clinics around just in case it's after hours and stuff like that too. But the most important thing is, and to know where those are as well, if it's a situation after hours, because we found out as well that dogs don't always get sick during normal business hours. So
they don't. No, they don't look at the clock.
So that's very good to know, and we'll keep that definitely in mind. We'll probably bring them in for their rattlesnake vaccinations soon, and make sure also everything's up to date. So that is good. So anybody who, if you live in the country and haven't done any of this stuff, you might want to think about it.
Yes.
Of course, Cinema Veterinary Center, located on Cinema Drive in Valencia, very easy to get to from anywhere in our Fair Valley. CinemaVet.com. Dr. Jaimie Ronchetto, and of course, also Dr. Will Barger is there as well as your very, very, very friendly tech staff, and I think that's terrific. So cinemavet.com, and what's the number?
661-253-9300.
As always, a pleasure, Dr. Jaimie Ronchetto.
Thank you.
And until next time, have a great day.
Thanks.